afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, members of the community, members of the media, and all of our mayoral candidates. And a warm welcome to everyone watching us live on Cool Pop app. Welcome to the 2026 Richmond mayoral candidate debate. My name is Cici Zhao, host from Cool Pop News, and it is my pleasure to serve as your MC for today's event. On behalf of Cool News, the organizer of today's debate, I would like to extend our warmest welcome and sincere appreciation to all of our candidates, guests, community representatives, members of the media, and audience members joining us today. Today's event would not have been possible without the generous support of many organizations and members of our community. We would first like to extend a special thanks to the North America International General Chamber of Commerce for the construction industry for providing venue support for today's event. We would also like to sincerely thank the following organizations for their generous support: Fraser Volunteer Association of Canada, Little Frog Alliance, Firebird Glory Club, Hotspot Media, and Seed Home Planning. We would also like to express our sincere appreciation to the media organizations supporting and covering today's event: Phoenix TV, City Television, Richmond News, Galdu Media, Lahu.ca, Canada China Focus Media, Genting Media, and Vancouver Yang Shuling. Thank you all for supporting our organizations, community partners, and media colleagues for your contribution to today's event, and for your continued interest in the future of Richmond. Today's debate is organized by Cool News. Our goal is to provide Richmond residents with an open, fair, respectful, and constructive platform where voters can hear directly from our mayoral candidates about their policies, priorities, and visions for the city. Today's discussion will address issues that matter to Richmond residents, including public safety, housing, urban planning, economic development, transportation and infrastructure, municipal finances, community development, governance, and transparency.
I do some Chinese translation in Chinese. 尊敬的各位贵宾、各位市民朋友、各位市长候选人，以及正在通过 Cool News APP 在线观看的各位朋友们，大家下午好！欢迎大家来到2025年列治文市长候选人辩论会2026 Richmond Mayoral Candidates Debate。我是今天的主持人 Charlie。首先，请允许我代表主办方 Cool News 酷天新闻，向今天莅临现场的各位市长候选人、嘉宾、社区代表、媒体朋友以及现场的观众表示最热烈的欢迎和衷心的感谢。同时，也感谢所有正在通过 Cool Talk APP 的在线观看本次辩论会的直播的朋友们。今天现场的活动顺利的举办，离不开各界朋友的大力支持。在这里，我表示，我们要特别感谢北美国际建筑业商会为我们提供这个宝贵的场地支持。同时呢，我们本次活动还得到了加拿大飞沙义工协会、小青蛙联盟、火鸟俱乐部、热点传媒以及其他媒体的大力支持。在此我们一并表示衷心的感谢。我们今天特别感谢各家媒体对本次列治文市长候选人辩论的关注和支持，包括凤凰卫视、城市电视、Richmond News、高度传媒、乐活网、汉家风传媒，以及温哥华杨树林 感谢所有的单位的支持，社区组织以及媒体朋友对本次活动的大力支持，也感谢大家共同关注列治文市长候选人市城市发展的未来规划未来。本次举办方由 Cool News 主办，旨在为列治文的市民提供一个公开、公平、理性的交流平台，让选民直接可以参与了解各位市长候选人的施政理念、政策主张，以及对列治文未来发展的规划。今天的辩论会围绕着列治文市民普遍关心的重要的议题，包括公共安全、住房、城市规划、经济发展、交通与基础设施、市政、财政、社区建设以及政府的理念和透明度等。
And now, it is my pleasure to introduce the moderator of today's debate, Dr. Samuel Thomas Reed. Dr. Reed is an instructor in political science at Columbia College. He will moderate today's formal debate and guide our candidates through the different sections of our program. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Dr. Samuel Thomas Reed.
现在我们有请 Dr. Samuel Thomas Reed 博士作为我们这次答辩会的主持人。他是毕业于 UBC 的 Political Science 的他的主攻，现在在哥伦比亚大学做政治学讲师。我们现在用热烈的掌声有请 Dr. Samuel Thomas Reed。
Thank you, Cece and Martin. Good afternoon, everyone. It is my pleasure to be here today and to moderate the 2026 Richmond Mayoral Candidates Debate. Thank you to all of our candidates for participating, and thank you to everyone here today for taking an active interest in the future of Richmond. Our goal this afternoon is to provide a fair, respectful, and constructive forum where voters can hear directly from the candidates about their priorities, policies, and vision for the city of Richmond. Before we begin, we would like to acknowledge that the land on which we gather for this debate is the unceded territory of the English peoples, including the territory of the Musqueam. The First Nations peoples in Canada have practiced public discussions of communal affairs since time immemorial, and we are honored to continue that tradition on this land today. Now let me introduce the four mayoral candidates joining us today. They are Kash, Alexa Liu, Sheldon, Starrett, and Henry Gammon. Please join me in welcoming all five candidates. I would like to thank all four candidates for agreeing to participate in today's public debate and for giving Richmond voters an opportunity to hear directly from them. Before we begin, I will briefly explain the format and rules for today's debate. Today's debate consists of 5 sections. Section 1 is the opening statements. Each candidate will have up to 2 minutes for an opening statement. Section 2 is the agree or disagree section. I will present approximately 6 to 8 questions relating to municipal and community issues. For each question, candidates should begin their response by clearly stating agree or disagree. They may then explain their position for up to 90 seconds. Section 3 is the candidate-to-candidate question section. Each candidate will have an opportunity to ask questions directly to other candidates. Because we have 4 candidates participating today, and to keep within the allotted time, each candidate may select 2 other candidates to answer their questions. Questions should focus on policy, municipal government, and the future of Richmond. Section 4 is the audience question section. We will take selected questions from members of the audience. Audience questions should be brief and should take no more than approximately 30 seconds to ask. Candidates will have up to 90 seconds to respond. Section 5 is the closing statement section. Finally, each candidate will have up to 2 minutes to deliver a closing statement. To ensure fairness, speaking times will be strictly observed. When a candidate has 30 seconds remaining, a time warning will be given. When time has expired, I will ask the candidate to finish their sentence so that we can move on. I also ask everyone in the audience to respect all of our candidates. Regardless of which candidate you support, please do not interrupt candidates while they are speaking. Our objective today is to have a respectful, fair, informative, and constructive discussion. Thank you for your cooperation. Let's begin. We will now begin with Section 1, opening statements. Each candidate will have up to 2 minutes. This is the candidate's opportunity to introduce themselves to Richmond voters, explain why they are running for mayor, and identify what they believe are the most important issues facing Richmond today. We will proceed according to the predetermined speaking order, starting with the candidate closest to me and then proceeding across the stage. Our first candidate is Mr. Henry Yao. You have 2 minutes. Please begin.
Thank you, everyone. My name is Henry Yao, and it's my pleasure to join everybody in today's debate. 大家好，我是叶子文市长。没有麦。Oh, thank you. Hello， 大家好，我是叶市长候选人 Henry Yao。很高兴今年跟大家一起参加这个辩论会。当然，为了尊重这次的活动，全场会用英文。Hello everyone, my name is Henry Yao, mayoral candidate for Richmond, and because in respecting for today's debate, we will be spending the whole debate speaking in English. I do want to emphasize that a lot of people are asking why did I choose suddenly coming back after leading the mayoral campaign. I was actually not intending to come back to a race until I saw the divisions and the frustration that's happening in our community. We can be together. We must learn to care for one another and use thoughtful process to really ask, how can we build a better city for you, for me, and for our future generation? I'm a father of 2 children. I refuse to believe I will raise my kids in a heartless or sometimes excessively partisan environment. I want to believe that we as a community have a heart for everyone else. I want to believe we as a community can work together, stand together, and collaborate together. As our campaign becomes more partisan, more racialized, and more divisive, I really want to be a voice of unity, bringing people together and ask, how can we listen, how can we collaborate, and how can we work together? Many people talk about public safety as our #1 priority, but for me, the division I'm seeing right now is my biggest fear. I would rather see our community really learn to work together and fight against crime than a divisive society where we don't trust our own neighbor. So my name is Henry Yao. I want to say, when we care, we thrive together. So I want to be your mayor, and I want to be serving you together. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Yao. We will now proceed to the next candidate, Councillor Kash.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me here. And certainly I want to tell you a bit about my background and then why we need change here in Richmond. Let me tell you, I've spent 60 years in Richmond. I've spent 47 years in public service. 32 of those years in policing, where I held high-profile commands in drug enforcement and gang enforcement, rising to the rank of chief of police before leaving to go into provincial politics, where I was a member of the Legislative Assembly, and I was your Solicitor General for a period of time. I have 2 academic degrees, and I have taught at 4 different universities and colleges throughout the Lower Mainland. I'm a subject matter expert in drug enforcement, and and law enforcement, and I've delivered talks all around the world with respect to this. I have been on council for the last term, and I can tell you I've identified areas that we need significant change. We don't need the status quo. And hopefully today I'll have the opportunity to tell you more about them, but let me just lay them out to you. Number one is we need to ensure that we have affordable government here in Richmond. We need to ensure that we have transparency so you understand how your tax dollars are spent. We need to ensure we have accountability to ensure that you can get access to the data that you need. We need to ensure we have law and order here in Richmond. And that encompasses a lot of different things. And lastly, we need to ensure that we have smart growth in Richmond. So I'm hoping to expand on these as we move through the afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor He. We will now move on to the next candidate, Councillor Alexa Wu.
Thank you, Dr. Reid. And good afternoon, everyone. Thank you to Cece and Charlie for being our MCs this afternoon, and hello to everyone this afternoon. I know it's warm, so we'll try to keep things brief here. I'm Alexa Liu. I'm a 3-time councillor. I've been on council for 12 years. Now, is there anyone here that think you'd like to live anywhere else? Because I don't. I like Richmond. I think it's awesome. As a matter of fact, I love Richmond. This is where I'm raising my 2 sons. They're 13 and 14 years old, and this is why I'm here. I also have my elderly parents. Well, actually, my father just passed away last month, so I have 1 elderly parent. And making sure that we have a good Richmond is what's important for me. And making sure that we continue having a good Richmond, the one that we've grown up around, where we are safe on the streets, where we could go to the community centers and take programs and meet our neighbors. That's the community I want. So as we go through this, let's be mindful that we don't throw Richmond under the bus, that we look forward of what changes we actually want. 25 years ago, Malcolm was part of a change election. He was brand new, he was young, he was inexperienced, and he came. And he worked hard, and he's left a legacy. Now we're in a position for another change election. Here's an opportunity to move forward and to create something special. I grew up here in Richmond. Thomas Kidd, McRoberts, McNair I attended. Then I went on to the Sauder School of Business. I became a KPMG CA, and now I've been sitting on council for 12 years. And I can hit the ground running, because the mayor is not a job where you learn on the job. And even if you disagree with me on how I vote, my reasoning is clear and understandable. This job is too big and it's too important. You can't come in and learn on the job. At the end of this debate, I want you to look at me and think, she knows her stuff.
Thank you. Your time is up. Please finish your sentence.
And she's competent and on time.
Thank you, Councillor Liu. We will now proceed to our next candidate, Councillor Sheldon Starrett.
Well, first, I'm not a councillor.
My apologies.
But my name is Sheldon Starrett. Many of you already know me. I've been very vocal in the community over the last number of years. And that is because this is a change election. We've heard it already in introductory remarks that it is time for a change in Richmond. Over the past 4 years, we've seen a lot of problems happening at City Hall. I am running to end the drug sites in Richmond, specifically Alderbridge and Astor Place. One of them is in my neighborhood. I have seen firsthand the problems of open drug use, discarded needles, crack pipes, people breaking into condos and businesses to steal goods, vandalism, arson, sexual harassment, sexual assault. The problems with these sites have not gone away. Many of us have spoken up at City Council over the years, and nothing. When we brought it to the Public Safety Committee, chaired by Councillor Liu, when we brought it up before council. Some of these incumbents are on council, and their track record on this is not good. So we need change on that. Additionally, we need to freeze the taxes and stop the wasteful spending in City Hall. We need accountability and financial transparency as well. We need a city government that will protect your private property rights and not keep you in the dark for over a decade while the Coalition is trying to take away land here in Richmond. So I hope you get to hear what we're going to say today, and you can make up your minds at the end of the debate. Thank you.
Thank you to all four candidates for your opening statements. We will now move on to the second section of today's debate, the agree or disagree section. I will present a series of questions relating to Richmond's municipal government and the future of our city. Before explaining your position, please clearly state agree or disagree. Each candidate will have up to 90 seconds to respond. We will start with the same predetermined speaking order. Then for each successive question, we will begin with the speaker to the first round speaker's right. I will do that. Our first agree or disagree question. The supportive housing units at Astor Place and Alderbridge help transition people out of homelessness into stable housing, but they have raised concerns about public safety and open drug use. Agree or disagree? The City Council's recent decision to extend Astor Place's temporary use permit for an additional 3 years was a mistake. We will begin with Mr. Henry Yap.
My answer will be disagree. I do agree with most of the councillors about extending it 3 years. I have made it very clear on my Facebook, and I made it very clear to everybody. We can talk about supportive housing, whether we need transition away from it, whether we need improved security, whether we need find an alternative strategy. But if we bluntly basically say we're going to just end the continuation, end the lease, simply because we do not like the facility, the question has always been, what happened to the 40 people who are already housed? What are the 40 people who are actually saving money per person being housed in a facility to ensure that they're being taken care of? Can we say the political haven't been living up to that side to ensure there's a continuation? Yes. Should we do more for public safety? Yes. Should we have a stronger conversation with the local community to discuss how can we work together? Yes. I'll take this opportunity to thank Sheldon for his comment, because during our roundtable when we were listening to a council's discussion, one thing was clear. It felt like no one was talking about Astor Place until there's an election coming. No one is talking about Astor Place until there's a contract coming up. So I want to promise you all, yes, we would like to see ways to reduce homelessness, but we'll do it proactively, thoughtfully, and we'll do it in a way not putting people onto the street. Thank you.
There's a bit of a quandary in how I answer your particular question. First of all, I'm going to tell you, I absolutely disagree that these are transitional houses. And this was part of my reason why I voted against extending the lease of the Astor Place. And that is the fact that this was supposed to be part of a continuum of care for those people that have significant issues, whether it's mental health or whether it's drug addiction. It was supposed to be part of a larger continuum to transition them through. What we found with the data on Astor Place is that people that were first put in there are still in there. They did not transition through that continuum. Matter of fact, this is the responsibility, the direct responsibility of the provincial government, and I'm calling them out. And that's why I voted against extending that lease. The fact that the provincial government, they think that if they just warehouse these people, take them off the streets, and they're still on the streets. However, we can talk about that later on secure care. But I can tell you, so in answer to your question, I disagree that they are temporary housing, and I can tell you, I disagree with what council did. I do not agree with extending the lease because I need to put pressure, and we need to put pressure on the provincial government building that continuum of care so we can get these people out of their crisis and into treatment.
disagree?
Well, seeing you gave a double-barreled question, and one is a yes and one's a no, you've made it hard to answer. So yes, I agreed with everyone, with council in the first place. When we were sold a bill of goods that said, these are transitional homes for people who are vulnerable people in our community, and we're going to work them through the system, we're going to help them get stabilized, we're going to let them get housed first, and stabilize them after in their journey to getting well again. That wasn't what was delivered. I voted against renewing Astor Place because they're not giving us the program that the people in that housing deserves. Those people deserve treatment. The data is clear. After your first overdose, you have a 50% chance of being dead within 5 years. 75% within 7 years. Most of the people who've left after Astor Place have left in a body bag. That is not the system we want to run in Richmond. And the only way to renegotiate the contract is to cancel the existing contract and start fresh. Bring them to the table and make the government give us the program we deserve. We just opened up Rio Vista in conjunction with Pathways Clubhouse, and they have a completely different system. They stabilize people first, they make them be drug-free in order to be allowed to live there and enjoy the programming. And they've had a huge success rate because they have another facility that has no problems. And that's why you've never heard of them before.
Mr. Starrett.
I agree with the statement. 7 years for Alderbridge is too much. Astor Place, the problems have been multitude in the neighborhoods. I went down and met with a lot of the business owners around Astor Place. Time after time, problem after problem. And what happens when they voice their concerns? City council belittles them, mocks them, tells them there is no problems here, nothing to see here. The same thing happened with Alderbridge as well. You had city managers and city councilors denying that these problems were happening. This housing is not transitional housing, it is congregate housing. You are warehousing people with addictions and problems. There is no wraparound supports, there is no continuum of care. Several NDP health ministers have said that, but it is a unicorn that doesn't happen. They put people in this housing and then say, oh, they're getting treated, pat on the back, good for us. It's not working. We need treatment and secure care. We need detox in Richmond that is secure. And we need supportive housing that is crime-free and drug-free to help our homeless seniors get housing so that they can transition to something better. So the model needs to change and we need a new system in Richmond.
Thank you for your responses. We will move on to our second agree or disagree question. Mayor Brody stated that the discussion about whether there will be a supervised drug consumption site in Richmond is closed. Agree or disagree? The discussion regarding a supervised drug consumption site in Richmond should remain closed. We will begin with Councillor Heed.
Agree. It should remain closed regardless of all the propaganda and rhetoric that's out there that is saying that I support or that we have these places actually open in Richmond right now. I would like to know where these supervised consumption sites are that people are making these allegations that are open. It is absolutely closed. But let me tell you about this. And you know, I talked about the fact that I've been all over the world talking about drug policy. And when I propose that we look at supervised consumption site, I want to read, in case people have not read the motion, I'm going to read one sentence of the motion that was brought forward in February of 2024. Number one, that staff administer a practicability analysis to gauge the potential benefits and challenges of implementing a drug consumption site within the Richmond General Hospital precinct. That's the first sentence of the motion. The very first one. It does not say that we're opening this up. They had to do a study to determine it. And all of a sudden, the political news that was out there is that I'm for drugs. You know, the comments that are made by some of the candidates here on the stage that I'm for drugs. Look, I took more drugs off the street than anyone has in Vancouver's history. I've arrested more people for drug trafficking than anyone has in Vancouver's history. I'm totally against illicit drug use, and I can tell you, I have a heart. And when I see these people dying on the streets, when we have the problems that Sheldon has talked about at Alderidge Housing, we need to get them out of public spaces. And that's why I subsequently brought in the motion that we send a letter to
Thank you. Your time is up. Please
asking
finish your
for
sentence.
secure care.
Councilor Luke, agree or disagree?
Agree. We don't need a safe consumption site in Richmond. The fact is, 9 months before that motion came to council, we had the public health officer come and speak to us. We asked her if we had the need for such a thing. She told us to our face, no, we don't. While it is unfortunate that around 26 people a year pass from using illicit drugs, it's not enough to trigger the need for a safe consumption site. Half of those people are actually using it in their own homes. To imagine that they might get in their car, drive to the hospital, pay for parking, and go and use drugs is a bit strange in my mind. I have 2 teenage boys. The last thing I want is a ground zero for where drugs are being used, sold, traded in Richmond. You create that ground zero, you bring all of the problems that come with it. You bring in the open air pawn shop.
Please do not interrupt.
As the council liaison to the Vancouver Coastal Health, I wonder why you actually don't know where the safe consumption sites are.
An absolute lie that we have safe consumption sites in Richmond.
Please do not interrupt the candidates. Councilor Luke, are you finished with your response? No, I was trying to give you the remainder of your time. Okay.
I think we all agree that we don't want drugs in our community. I think we can all agree that creating a place where people can do them safely is not actually helping them. We need to help people where they are, get them off the street, and get them the true help that they need and that they deserve.
This is going to be a different tack because I actually disagree with this because the vote that was had is still on the books. It is still standing. There is always the possibility it could come in through the back door. So one of my first orders of business would be to propose a motion to rescind the motion that Richmond City Council passed that Kash sponsored. And it wasn't just a feasibility study. It was actually calling for implementation and trying to develop the infrastructure for a drug consumption site at Richmond Hospital. So, yeah, I think that this discussion is not closed and that we need to have a motion and a vote on it to finally shut the door and in any backdoor trap where they could come in later and implement it. In the last election, I stood with Chalk Al when we opposed injection sites in our city. Some of our incumbent status quo city councillors denied that that was happening. And then after the election, they come in and then they propose it and ask for it at Richmond Hospital. So many of them say one thing and do the absolutely other thing once they're in. We can't have that. We need to revisit the vote on this, to kill it once and for all, so that there is no chance for a consumption site at Richmond Hospital.
Mr. Yao, agree or disagree?
I agree, and I want to take this opportunity to go back to the history. As everybody knows, the vote was 7 versus 2 by the City Council and approved. And through the process of both sessions, the provincial government, while working with the Vancouver Coastal Health, we continuously emphasize to the councillors, it's not necessary. Because safe consumption site resource should be going to where the highest death rate per capita. In other words, if anybody look at Richmond News, it was actually me, an announcement on behalf of Vancouver Coastal Health, saying, despite the city council approved the motion, we actually reject it. But I do want to emphasize one thing. We shouldn't be saying no because we don't want safe consumption site. We should say no because we need to reduce our death rate in our community. We need to reduce addiction rate in our community. We need to find a way to work with the community to ensure we're educating young people to protect individuals. I can never say absolutely zero chance when there's a life-saving strategy on the table, but I will do my best to ensure that is not an option for us to consider with every other tool that's available to ensure we reduce the death rate, reduce the addiction rate, and to ensure that however we're doing this, we're working with through compassion, thoughtfulness, and togetherness. This topic has been breaking Richmond apart, and I really hope through this process, let's bring Richmond together, and let's come together as a community and have healthy, civilized discussion instead of pointing finger and criticizing one another. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. We will have one more agree or disagree question before adjourning for a short 5-minute break and then returning to the agree or disagree questions. The next question. In 2018, the provincial government passed legislation that increases municipal government's powers to zone land for rental-only purposes. Agree or disagree? The City of Richmond has not adequately used its increased power over rental-only zoning. We will begin with Councillor Liu. Agree or disagree?
Disagree. Just because you call everything a unicorn doesn't mean you're getting unicorn rides. So just because you zone all the land something doesn't mean it's going to become that. It just means that you hamstrung the development industry and made it so the only thing they can build is something that's potentially not affordable for them to build. I'm a CPA/CA, I understand the economy and I understand business. So running around blanket zoning Richmond to make it all rental doesn't mean you're going to get rental. It means you're going to chase away development. You're not going to get any new housing, and 10 years from now, you're really going to be wondering where your rental housing is. Unfortunately, over the past few years, somehow it's been not okay for mom and pop shops to have their rental building that they rent out, and that's their retirement plan. It seems to be okay for all the unions to have that as the teachers and pension plan, for them to have it as their retirement plan. But it should be your retirement plan too. You work hard, you build an extra home, you build a building, you rent it out to people, you're a good landlord. That should be part of your retirement strategy. And we made it hard for people to do that, and I think we need to make it easier for you to do that. And that's not by running around blanket rezoning Richmond.
Mr. Starrett, agree or disagree?
Well, I also disagree. I don't think that rental housing is the solution to all the problems of housing. I actually think that there is something it's not aspirational to aspire for rental housing. People in Richmond, talking to many young families here in the city center that live in apartments, they want to be able to own their own home, to raise their families. And by doubling down on rental housing that's in tiny boxes cramped up on top of each other is not a solution that makes affordable home ownership a priority. So that is something that I would like to see. There needs to be some rental housing, don't get me wrong, but it cannot be blanket rental housing. We need pathways to affordable home ownership. And if that means we have to rezone a multi-million-dollar mansion and property into 2 or 3 homes that might be more attainable for people to take out a mortgage, then that's what we have to do. But I disagree with the provincial policy on this, and I think we need a practical, made in Richmond solution for the housing affordability issue here.
Mr. Yap, agree or disagree?
I also disagree, so thank you everyone for speaking ahead. I do want to also say, when it comes to dealing with problems, I've always emphasized we do not put a butcher knife into a surgery. I think some of the candidates here mentioned earlier, which is extremely important. Let the local government do the job and identify the best way to move forward. I already have put on my Facebook as a platform. I would love to push forward geared to income rentals that's designed for people who can put in work for Richmond. And it's not affordable units, it's keeping people who want to work in Richmond able to find a place at home. And we would love to work with our different community partners, such as nonprofits, developers, and of course, our community members, to really ask, how do we keep our young people here? How do we make life more affordable? People should be paying the young people's future, and we find ways to actually shifting from affordable units towards geared to income units and focusing on how we can help people work in Richmond, stay in Richmond.
Councilor, do you agree or disagree?
You're going to get consensus across the floor here. I disagree too. Absolutely disagree with the way the province is going about trying to tell us what we need to do here in Richmond. We need leadership that's going to push back against the province, be in there and say, that's not what you're going to do here in Richmond. We need to make sure that that is there, because we need not only, and don't focus just on rental housing, there's other aspects of what their bills are trying to do for us on how we build out Richmond. So we need to pay attention to all of that stuff. But I can tell you right at the outset, we need housing for everyone. We need housing for people that are starting out, people that are raising their families, students that are going to universities, seniors that are selling, as Councillor Liu talked about, their nest egg in order for them to carry on into retirement. We need to make sure we have smart growth. We have limited lands in order for us to build residential housing. And I can tell you, we need to build all types of housing, and we need a council that's going to do that. We don't need to be told by this government that's in power in Victoria.
That we could build consensus with that last question. On the previous question, we can clearly see there are different views among the candidates on the issue. And that's one of the important purposes of a public debate, to allow voters to understand not only where candidates stand, but also the reasoning behind their positions. We will now adjourn for a short 5-minute break before continuing with the agree or disagree round.
我们下一步的辩论环节将来开始，请朋友们入位。So we're going to have a second session of our debate. Please be seated. Thank you very much for your cooperation. Thank you. 好，大家入座。
Thank you, everyone. We are going to resume the debate. If you could please be seated and silence your devices. Thank you so much. We are halfway through our agree or disagree round. I am going to pose the next agree or disagree question, and Mr. Starrett will begin with the responses. Richmond Night Market organizers announced they had made the decision to permanently conclude operations at the end of the summer because its lease at its current location is coming to an end. Agree or disagree? The city of Richmond should do whatever it can to fix the night market's private lease and operating challenges. Mr. Starrett, agree or disagree?
I disagree, and I believe that if the night market cannot secure the agreement with the owner of the property, that is between them. That is a private arrangement. But what I do think we should is that the city should do all it can to promote markets and events in the city that bring people here. And if there is an opportunity for other events that come out of this, other opportunities, I'm very open to exploring with those.
Mr. Yao, agree or disagree?
Thank you for the question. I will emphasize my answers will be disagree slightly. As many people know, on my Facebook, I have had a conversation about doing whatever we can to save Richmond night market. And it was great to see so many people questioning me, challenging me, and asking me why. And a lot of the arguments were very logical and reasonable, and therefore I'm actually taking back a few steps. We would love to find a way to keep Richmond night market active. We would love to find a way to support Richmond night market. We also need to understand if the city to step in, it must benefit Richmond residents as a first #1 priority. We also want to be making sure, however we do, that as we protect this cultural opportunity, we also looking for a way to diversify as well. We want to make sure that if we do engage, we'll continue to consult with the public to understand what their concerns are. Hopefully, it could be a catalyst to be part of a negotiation or find a new location. I would love to see Richmond night market stay in Richmond, but if we're going to ask the city to be participating, I expect Richmond residents benefit from the final deal. Thank you.
Councillor He, agree or disagree?
I absolutely agree. We need to do whatever we can to ensure this iconic, symbolic, tourist attraction, economic generator, 1,000 people employed, stays in Richmond. I've spoken to the owner of Night Market Raymond. We are going to meet this week. I am meeting with the people that actually have the lender's sale on it. That piece of property is in bankruptcy right now. The bank actually holds the note for that piece of property. Nothing's going to happen with that property over the next little while. 3 or 4 years, even longer than that possibility. So if they can come together, work out a deal, Raymond and the people that are holding the note for it, and ensure that they can survive in that particular area for a period of time, that is very positive for not only tourism, very positive for the economy here in Richmond. And we, as a local government, that's our job, is to make sure that those opportunities are in Richmond and remain in Richmond. If in fact they cannot reach an agreement, then we as a local government have to find, if the proprietor wants to continue in Richmond, have to find a way to ensure it stays here. We know other cities are already reaching out to Raymond right now to try and get them to move the night market to their area because they recognize the economic benefit for it. I am a big supporter of the night market. We have to do whatever we can to ensure it remains in Richmond.
Thank you. Councillor Wu, agree or disagree?
Disagree. The Richmond Night Market is a private business. As much as I would love to do everything we can to help them, what is it that we can as a city do? I met with Raymond before he made his announcement, and we talked through it. What would you like us to help you with? How can we help you? And he said, well, it's just a lease negotiation. It's me talking to the bank. I said, well, I don't think it's very appropriate for me to come and help you negotiate with the bank. Similarly, it wouldn't have been appropriate for City Hall to go and negotiate with the Hudson's Bay Company when they went out of business in Richmond. And other companies have come and gone in Richmond, and it's been unfortunate. What our job at City Hall is to do is to make it easy for you to set up your business. I propose that you get a provisional business license in 24 hours. I propose that we improve permitting to 10 days where possible. We speed up getting you into business so that we can get out of your way and you can get to business. And that's our job as City Hall. It's not to be running around trying to pick and choose different businesses, figure out where we're going to waste your taxpayers' dollars running down various rabbit holes. That's not it. Our job is to make it easy for you to do your business and get out of your way so you can be successful.
Thank you. We will proceed to our next agree or disagree question. The Richmond RCMP reported a 70% increase in shoplifting in January and February of this year compared to the same time frame last year. Agree or disagree? The City of Richmond needs to do more to protect local businesses from retail theft. Mr. Yap, agree or disagree?
Thank you for the question, and my answer will be agree. We do want to take this opportunity, first of all, we want to thank RCMP for the great work they're doing in our city. I had multiple engagement with RCMP when I was a former MLA, and have done nothing except showing professionalism and doing their best to support our community. I also attended the Richmond Chamber of Commerce round table security issue. And the RCMP and of course the security experts all pointed out we do have an issue regarding SkyTrain, where many people coming to Richmond, conduct their activity and leave on the SkyTrain. I think the city needs to find a way to work with our local business, work with RCMP, and work with different stakeholders and find out how we can lower the unnecessary costs for small business people. In the end, people are struggling today. Small businesses are struggling today. And we as a city should find a way to ease any unnecessary expenses, especially on criminal-based damage to the financial bottom line. So I am here supporting, and I will ask City of Richmond, RCMP, and for local community members and our nonprofit sectors to work together to how we can reduce the crime rate in Richmond.
Let me start out by saying I absolutely agree that we need to do something around this issue. We need to understand the issue. We need to realize there are reasons why these chronic offenders are coming in and stealing from our businesses. Remember, this is a criminal offense. The police have an obligation to deal with it, and the prosecution system has an obligation to prosecute these people. If you look at some of the changes around chronic offender programs, the province is finally getting on board. Let me tell you a bit about my experience. I brought in the chronic offender program in Vancouver when in fact businesses around the central business district were suffering like they're suffering here in Richmond. And we brought in initiatives working with private security, working with retail security, working with our own target teams, and went after these people. What we did is we put them into the chronic offender program, and we went with a special prosecutor to make sure that they are absolutely dealt with in an effective and efficient manner. This getting the revolving door spinning faster and faster has to stop. We have an obligation as a city because we are responsible for the policing within our jurisdiction through the BC Police Act. The province has a responsibility for the prosecution of these people in court, and the federal government has a responsibility to create criminal law here in Canada. We need to work with all of them. Thank you.
Councillor Louie, agree or disagree?
Agree. If we don't do something, it's going to end up like what happened in Chinatown, where all the businesses go under. It becomes not the place that we knew and not the place that we love. We need to absolutely work on this. We know that some of these are organized crime. We know that some of them are crime gangs. They're not our kids doing petty theft in the stores. They're actually organized crime. And so we need to work, our RCMP need to be out there, walking the beat, but actually also infiltrating them and getting people behind bars. Getting people actually behind bars is actually a provincial issue, because did you know that we have fewer jail cells per capita in BC than Hong Kong does? Do you think we have fewer naughty people here? I don't think so. So that's a problem. We have nowhere to put them when we catch them doing bad things. And something that we can all do to help combat shoplifting and the shoplifting crime: do not buy new things off the internet. If If you see a brand new thing of Lego, an Arc'teryx jacket, a Lululemon sweater that are brand new being sold by some guy on Facebook Marketplace, it's probably stolen. You know that there's those people selling things on the side of the road. You know that those things are stolen. Do not buy them. If you feed the industry, it keeps it alive. That's one thing we can do as citizens ourselves, and our RCMP and our city need to work bylaws in getting it off, combating the crime.
Mr. Starrett, agree or disagree?
Absolutely agree. The retail theft, of course, hurts many of the businesses in Richmond, especially the small businesses. And so the city does need to do more to work with law enforcement, to work with other levels of government. And we need to actually hold our MLAs and MPs accountable for fixing the problems at the provincial prosecution level and the federal criminal level so that we can start going after the repeat offenders. The police know who they are. For instance, I'll name one of them. His name is Michael Landry. You can do a CSO search, and as of 5 years ago, he had 130 plus convictions. So we know, the police know who these people are. They're the same people, but they keep repeating. And it's not just the SkyTrain. If you talk to some of the retailers around Richmond Center, they will say they've also seen people take off west towards the Alder Bridge temporary modular housing. All roads lead back to this policy where these criminal drug addicts congregate in these areas, on the SkyTrain, at these housing sites, at Great House Park. So one thing I would do is, instead of necessarily hiring more police officers, I think we need to hire CSOs, community safety officers, a much more fiscally prudent response to put them on the streets so that they can work with retailers, with shopkeepers, and loss prevention officers and the RCMP to ensure public safety in the city center, ensure patrols, and stop the retail theft and the open drug use.
In the interest of time, we are going to move forward to the next section. Section 3, candidate-to-candidate questions. This section gives each candidate an opportunity to directly question another candidate about policy and municipal issues. Each candidate may select 2 other candidates to answer their questions. Please keep your questions clear and concise. This section is intended for questions rather than extended statements. I also ask everyone to remain professional and respectful and to focus on policies rather than personalities. Let's begin. Councillor He, which candidate would you like to address your first question to?
To Councillor Liu. And let me just give you a little background here with respect to this. On March 26th, the Mayor, Malcolm Brodie, received a letter from the Taipei Economic and Cultural Office in Vancouver. He then sent a memo out to all councillors with respect to them wanting someone with an all-expense paid trip to go to the Taipei Games. Every councillor said no, as this was a gift from a foreign government, and they were opposed to doing it. Councillor Liu, you recall this because you responded to the invitation and you went. In the new Foreign Influence Office, which prevents foreign interference, the Commissioner on August 4th, where he was actually put in his position, said, over the years, the Taipei Economic and Cultural Office in Canada, which doesn't fall under the Lobbying Commission jurisdiction, has been one of the most frequent sponsors of travel for members of Parliament, sending them on pricey trips to Taiwan. And he says, my understanding is that...
Could you please give us your question directly?
My understanding is that influence activities that are done in relation to the Taiwanese government would be covered under his current legislation. I checked on August 4th, just last week, and you have not filed a gift disclosure statement with respect to this as you are required to under the community charter. Do you think that's appropriate?
The trip was representing Richmond, BC. And as a matter of fact, I paid to have my son accompany me. We had the opportunity to visit Taiwan, to visit Taipei, and see how they do things. We are also there as part of the World Masters Games. This is a sporting event to which 20,000 people attend. The chair of it is Sergei Bubka, whom I've met in my Olympic experience, and it was an opportunity to see a huge sporting event that brings in 20,000 people from all over the world, adults competing together in a bunch of different sports. It was a wonderful opportunity. One of the other opportunities that we had was to visit their mass rapid transit and understand how they move so many people around so quickly in their community. It was an opportunity to learn for Richmond how we might move people around and move them around better, and how construction can happen quicker, more efficiently, without disrupting people. One of their highlights of their mass rapid transit is that they put in those safety gates overnight, and they still managed to keep the trains running. So every station kept running while they put in those gates. Have you guys ever been to some of our intersections? You notice that everything shuts down, and you're down to one, and you're severely suffering in traffic. How can we do things better? We do things better by learning from other people and taking those opportunities to learn and bring those learnings back to Richmond.
Thank you, Councillor Liu. Councillor Liu, you may now select a candidate to ask a question to.
I'd like to ask Henry Yao a question. You're new to running for the mayoral race. Congratulations. I'm curious if you have any opinions on whether or not somebody should live in Richmond and how long they should live in Richmond in order to be a good candidate for a mayoral candidate.
Thank you, Alex, for the question. I really appreciate you discussing about people's living in Richmond as one of our priority. And I actually moved from Taiwan into Richmond when I was 11 years old and spent most of my life here in Richmond. No, I was not born in Canada. And no, I did not spend my whole life living in Canada. But this is what we love about democracy in Canada. It's multiculturalism welcomes everybody. As someone with a Canadian citizenship, we care about community members and we're intended to engage one another. We should be part of this community and be welcome and not be treated as a second-class citizen. And I want to take this opportunity to thank Richmond for never treating me like a second-class citizen. Allow me to be part of the community, allow me to work with you all, and allow me to enjoy the time I spend here. I also served as a 4 years at MLA, and it was such a pleasure to give back to Richmond. I was one of the hardest working MLA, putting over 1,000 events for 4 years, and working average 60 to 80 hours a week. Why? Because it's such a lovely city. So yes, I know many people might question whether I born in Richmond. I was not born in Richmond, and I did not spend my whole life in Richmond. But it's the beautiful part about Richmond. We are a mosaic of multiculturalism. Everybody comes with a different background, and together we build this lovely community together. So thank you for the question. I really appreciate that.
Thank you both. Mr. Starrett, to which candidate would you like to address your first question?
My first question will be to Kash. So, since being elected to City Council, you introduced your motion for a website at Richmond Hospital, and in that motion, it does specifically say implementation in there multiple times for the infrastructure for that. But beyond that too, even in 2023, you did vote for the renewal of Alton Bridge, you did vote for the renewal of Astor Place, and you did vote for the conversion of Great House Park into that makeshift hellscape that it is today. To the point that families in Richmond do not want to take their
I'm sorry to
kids to Great
interrupt.
House
Could you
Park.
please give us your question directly?
So, Kash, how can you reconcile your past voting history for this while you're telling people in this election that you're against this when you voted in favor of it every time previously?
Well, let me tell you, I think many of us voted certain ways, and we're proud of the way we voted, okay? You've got to have, Mr. Starrett, you've got to have your information correct when you're bringing your questions forward because it is so incorrect. Matter of fact, when I voted to renew Alder Ridge Place housing At that time, I said that we had to do something different to get these people out of the crisis that they're in right now. Look, I have a heart. I don't know if you have a heart. When I see these people in their crisis, when I see them in the laneways, when I see them in the alcove, my heartstrings pull. I want to get them help. I want to get them out of that. So what I went with originally was let's look at getting them out of the public spaces. If you can understand addiction and mental health, Mr. Starrett, you will understand they cannot think for themselves. We need to get them in front of health practitioners. When that didn't go forward, I said, fine. That's when I brought in a motion that we write to the provincial government saying, secure care. If you look, I also did an op-ed in the Vancouver Sun on why we need secure care for people that have acute drug addiction, mental health issues, or poly. And most of the people that are unsheltered on our streets in our public spaces, they are they have poly problems. We need to work with what we can to get them out of those public spaces, to get them out of their crisis.
Thank you both. Mr. Yap, to which candidate would you like to address your first question?
I'd like to address my question to Sheldon, if you don't mind. As people know, recently Jason Liu actually made a graphic on internet, and then obviously our council has decided to vote in unison to actually set Jason Liu's case into Human Rights Commissioner. I know I mentioned that obviously we as a community disagree and we do not support racism and discrimination. However, I would like to listen to Sheldon. If you were sitting in council at that time, how would you have voted?
Well, thank you for the question, Henry. And I would have voted against sending that letter to the BC Human Rights Tribunal.
Yes.
It was irresponsible. It was irresponsible of our city council to weaponize a quasi-judicial government legal institution against a private citizen. Sure, he used an AI image, and AI image is not perfect. We know AI has some problems. He did retract that image, and what he wanted to was encourage more Chinese residents to come out to vote in Richmond. There's no secret to the fact that we have a Chinese majority population in Richmond. We also have some of the lowest voter turnout in all of BC at the provincial and the federal level. Yeah. It's important to encourage more people to get out and vote. Now, I think that if you have an issue with racism, you can call that out and you can have dialogue. Everyone might have an uncle or a grandparent who has said some racist stuff. And the only way to solve that is by having a dialogue and civil discussion about this, not by threatening them with the BC Human Rights Tribunal. And so everyone,
Thank you both. Councillor He, to which candidate would you like to address your second question?
Mr. Starrett, please. As you can sense, that people that are in the mayor's position are in a very strong leadership position here in Richmond. One that requires qualifications to lead Richmond. One that requires you to oversee about $1 billion a year budget. One that requires you to oversee upwards of 2,000 staff members. When you ran for the Richmond Community Coalition in 2022, you said, this is a quote from the paper, Sheldon Starrett works for the BC Liquor Distribution Branch.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Could you please give us your question?
As a product consultant. Do you think that that's the appropriate qualifications to be the mayor of Richmond? But if that has changed since 2022, how have you upgraded your qualifications to be the mayor?
Well, I was proud to run in 2022 with Chalk Al, my friend, and with this, this is a change election. This is an election where Kash wants to talk about qualifications, but I think we should also be cognizant of the fact that there are track records. Now, Kash likes to say that he has 42 years of public service experience. And where was that? In the city of Vancouver, the downtown east side Chinatown. So if his 42 years of experience led to what we see in Chinatown today, I don't want his experience here in Richmond.
You're wrong. You've got to talk facts. You want to be the mayor, talk facts.
Well, Kash has voted for drug sites. He has voted to increase your taxes over the last few years. Taxes have went up 29.95% since 2001. That, if your property taxes back in 2021 were $2,000 a month, your property taxes are now $2,700 a month. And that's just for residential. If you're a business operator, your taxes will have gone up further because commercial rates go up higher. We cannot tax and spend and treat the taxpayers in Richmond as ATM machines for pet projects. We need a full review and transparency and accountability of all the spending at the City of Richmond, the Olympic Oval, all of that, and so that we can cut wasteful spending
Please finish.
and have accountability at City Hall.
Councillor Liu, to which candidate would you like to address your second question?
To Councillor Heap. So most people don't get promoted who don't show up for work. At the recent ECOM AGM, you sent in your proxy and didn't show up. You didn't come to our Finance Committee meeting where we were bandying around our budget of nearly $1 billion. $700 million actually had you attended the meeting. So as a police officer, what value have you brought? Because policing costs continue to rise, ECOM costs continue to rise, and crime isn't better.
Well, let me address this. I haven't missed a financial committee meeting, so I don't know where you're getting that information from. Secondly, I was the one, when I got to ECOM, brought our costs down in ECOM. Just check with the ECOM board. I sent the proxy, which was the chair of the board, because ECOM was sending the proxies to all of them, because that was the first game of the FIFA World Cup, and the traffic chaos wouldn't have been there. We discussed it. It went to the chair of the board with my proxy of the way I wanted to vote. The meeting lasted just a short period of time. But when I get accused of not being at a finance committee meeting, I really like to call that out, because I'd really like to see that attendance record. And we have that attendance record, and I absolutely will be looking at it.
Thank you both. Mr. Starrett, to which candidate would you like to address your second question?
My second question will be towards Councillor Liu. Over the past few years, and it's kind of similar to my question to Kash, you did vote for Alderbridge originally back in 2018, and you voted for Astor Place in 2021, as well as the Break House Park. And you suddenly, and also for the hospital site, you also voted for that in the first vote before switching your vote. So it is legitimate for people to ask about your past track record on it, and whether you're sincere about it now that the election is here.
Thank you for your question. If you understand how council works, we have committee meetings, and where your vote there really doesn't make any difference, unless of course everyone votes exactly the same and then it goes on a consent agenda. So your vote only matters at City Council. And at City Council, I voted against a consumption site in Richmond. When I first started on council, the message from the provincial government was housing first, treatment second. I followed that line, and that's what I voted for. What I also voted for in Richmond, though, was to bring in the CAR 6-7 program. That's where we have an RCMP officer and a mental health nurse attend mental health calls, so that they're treated appropriately, safely, and compassionately. Because I really do care about people, and I care that people are treated properly and that they can get the care they need. We see that the Alderbridge Place and the Astor Place hasn't worked the way we wanted, and my track record now shows that I've learned and that I've seen what the new model is. The new model, according to the Union of BC Municipalities, the conference we go to, or that I go to every year, they now talk about stability first, housing second. And that's why I voted against Astor Place, so that we can change the contract and get a better deal for the residents in the building and the residents who live around the building, as well as the businesses.
Mr. Yao, to which candidate would you like to address your second
I would
question?
like to ask Councilor Liu a question. Obviously, I appreciate you brought up many important points. We talked about Astor Place, and we remember the City Council discussion where I think Councilor Andy Hobbs made it very clear the housing market is going to struggle for the next 3 to 5 years. BC government, as we know right now, is a huge deficit that's still trying to fix, and it was holding funding from the housing market. And I get it. I think I appreciate it, your desire to get problem solving moving forward. But my current concern at this point is if we are canceling the contract with BC Housing as of last meeting, and without new provincial funding coming down, without the housing market getting better, how would you support those 40 individuals in the housing unit?
BC Housing has a system whereby they're able to move people around amongst their hundreds of operations that they have. So you're not going to see those 40 people suddenly sitting on the sidewalk with a bag next to them. That's not how it works. You all saw the one that was next to the Queen Elizabeth Theatre. That one shut down and people were moved to different places. So all those people aren't sitting in front of the Queen Elizabeth Theatre. It's interesting that you asked me this question because you were in government and you had the opportunity to do something. You knew that this wasn't working. The provincial government wanted to bring in more supportive housing, more of the same. And we knew that that more of the same wasn't going to work. You didn't come up with any new ideas. And we know the only way to actually renegotiate a contract is to kill the contract that you have in front of you. You can't pay for your car, pull it out of the dealership, and then come back and expect them to change the color and give you some more floor mats. It doesn't work that way.
Thank you, candidates, for that lively exchange of ideas. We will now move on to Section 4, Audience Questions. The people in this room represent different communities and perspectives across Richmond, and this section gives members of the public an opportunity to raise issues that matter directly to them. Audience members selected to ask a question should please keep their question to approximately 30 seconds. Please ask a direct question rather than making an extended statement. Questions should focus on public policy, municipal government, community issues, and the future of Richmond. Personal attacks will not be permitted. Candidates will have up to 90 seconds to respond. Let's begin with our first audience question from a high school volunteer from the Little Frog Initiative. Do we have that volunteer ready to ask a question? And do we have an organizer, a member of the staff who can bring a microphone to that audience member? Please introduce yourself and then ask your question.
Hi, my name is Mercy. My name is Kenzie. So we're here today to represent the Little Frog Initiative and our group of secondary school volunteers. Our question is, young people are affected by many of the decisions city councils make, but most of us are still too young to vote. If you become a mayor, how would you make sure Richmond youth have a real voice in those decisions?
And one more question. Will you be open to staying in touch with us after today so we can follow up?
Can you please repeat the second question?
Will you be open to staying in touch with us after today so we can follow up?
I believe the request was for a forum for a follow-up. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So our two questions. The first one is that young people in Richmond are affected by many decisions that City Council makes, and yet they do not have a voice in electing City Council or Mayor. Is there a way that the impacts on these young people can be appreciated and addressed? Am I representing your question accurately? And then secondly, is there a forum in which young people in Richmond will be able to follow up with the candidates or the candidate elected in order to address how issues in Richmond affect interested parties who are too young to vote. We will begin with Mr. Yap. 90 seconds to respond for each candidate.
Thank you so my apologies. Thank you so much for your question. As many people know, my background, I was a youth worker. That's one thing I care so much about, is that youth have a voice in our current government system. The reality here is many youth who are often focused and studying and realizing the challenging ahead, and sometimes many adults like us slowly losing sight, because we have to make money, we have to raise a family, we have to get work done. Yet it's often the youth coming out that we need to be more socially responsible. We need to be environmentally conscious. We need to find ways to give youth more employment and volunteer opportunities. We need to find ways to make your youth voice heard. And I will say one thing, like despite the fact I'm running for mayor, when I was a youth worker, I've been proven many, many times that many more youth who are far more smarter than me, far more talented than me, and I just love learning from them. So yes, if I'm a mayor, I will have a strong commitment to create a forum for the youth from all the community center to be the same representative to join us and ensure they're supported when they go back, so they continue to collect information within the local neighborhood and engage the local youth. I believe if the youth will engage in the beginning and working hard to be part of our democratic system, we will be able to fundamentally increase our voting rate, increase our democratic engagement, and improve our transparency, accountability to the public. Thank you for that question.
Thank you, Doctor, and thank you for having one of our youth come forward to ask the first question. And if you look at my principles that I'm running on, you'll see right at the beginning, I talk about that any decision made in council, I won't be supportive of it unless it helps working families, our youth, and our seniors. That's entrenched in everything that we do within what's going on. You have a very, very important voice. We realize that you're not old enough to vote, but look, you're old enough to talk to your parents and get them engaged in the system. You're old enough to sit on the various councils that are available, whether it's through the community centers or some of the schools that represent that. We have our youth committees within the city of Richmond. We need you engaged because you are our future. Thank you.
Councillor Liu.
I'll answer your second question first. Yes, I'm absolutely happy to make myself available to listen to your ideas and hear what you have to say. I'd love to do that, and I'll give you my card after. For your first question, absolutely we want to hear from you. We want to know what you're thinking and know what you need. We have many opportunities, and I myself took advantage of those opportunities. When I was in high school, I got to sit on the youth council, where I got to sit in the mayor's chair and run a mock council. We run a regular program at the City of Richmond where you too can do the same thing. You can sit in our council chairs, understand how the process works, and learn. You can also sit on some of our youth advisory. We have a youth advisory committee, and we have youth positions on a number of our community committees, so that you can delve into specific things that you're interested in, whether it's agriculture and food sustainability, or whether it's accessibility or something else. So there's many opportunities for you to come forward. And did you know, you can come to council and delegate anytime you want. You can come and you can call the city clerk's office, and you can come and delegate on a non-agenda item in any city council meeting. So you're welcome to come. We'd love to hear your voice. And there's so many opportunities where you can learn and develop yourself and get your voices heard.
To the second question first, I'm always accessible, so you're always welcome to reach out, and I, of course, would be glad to follow up with you on any issues that are a concern for you. We need to get our young people involved. We've seen a lot of young people, and I've talked to a lot of young people who are concerned about the future. They're concerned that they are not able to get experience or get summer jobs as they're going out into the world. We want our youth to be able to stay here, get jobs here, and stay in the community rather than going to the United States or going overseas, because more opportunities are better over there. We need to give youth more access to our city amenities, the Oval and other elite sports programs in the city. But sometimes also, when you have like soccer clubs needing access to a field, and there's a field sitting empty, but they're not allowed to use it. So we need to use our amenities in the city to give youth more opportunities to engage in youth sports without participation trophies and stuff like that. The other thing too is that's very important is also working with our friends at the school board on education and drug prevention as well. And we all know the story of Emily Liu.
Thank you. Your time is finished. Please finish your sentence.
The fentanyl that she got before she died came from someone in Richmond. So drug prevention is also very important for our youth.
Thank you very much for your questions, and thank you, candidates, for your responses. Do we have another audience member with a question? Yes, sir. Please introduce yourself and then ask your question.
Thank you to all mayor candidates for spending your time here answering all these questions and have this wonderful debate. My name is Stephen Quinn. I am a resident of Richmond. So my question is, last month during the Astor Place public hearing, I told the mayor and the council, if you guys aren't doing your job, then we will be electing someone who will. And then they told me that's a threat. So my question to 3 of the 4 the mayoral candidates, do you believe that demanding Jason Liu to apologize for encouraging the Chinese residents to vote is a legitimate accountability, or is it a political intimidate a community?
Do the candidates understand the question?
Yes.
We will begin with Councillor He.
And thank you. Yes, I remember you when you presented at Astor Place. You were very passionate about it. So again, look, this is about accountability. This is not about any political rhetoric or any political positioning. It's about accountability. So it's as simple as that. That's why I voted in favor of the motion.
Councillor Liu.
Thank you for your question. I did vote in favor of the motion. I think it would have been better had we deferred the motion and given appropriate time to look at it. So typically we demand a notice of motion so that the councillors have enough time to think it through, consider the justice of procedure before passing motions or anything else. I also think it would have been more fair for the community to have that extra time if they wanted to find out more, to determine what was going on, and determine if they wanted to be able to speak to it. So I believe that we should be giving that same consideration to the public that we have demanded for ourselves, to have the notice of motion so that everyone can participate in the discussion.
I actually agree with Kash that this is about accountability. And by believing in accountability, he should have recused himself from that vote, considering it was an incident that involved him. But it's not the first time that, of course, he has threatened something against someone. When I spoke up against the drug consumption site back in 2024, he sent me an email threatening legal action against me as well. So it is a track record of him going after working class people who have legitimate concerns about failed drug policies in Richmond. And he needs to be held accountable for it.
Mr. Yang.
I'm sorry, I'm not too sure I'm not hearing you quite. You're talking about doing the council meeting where you're going to say if the council doesn't support, doesn't deny it, you'll vote them out. Is that correct? And where the mayor boldly pushed back against you. Is it?
So during the after-place meeting, I actually said, if the current councilor and everybody on there are not listening to the community, the residents' concern, then on October 17th, we will be voting for someone who will actually listen to us, because that's democracy. That is a statement. My question is, when the council talk about the Jason Liu's incident. Was it a legitimate accountability, or was it an attempt to politically intimidate a community?
Okay, thank you so much for the question. I get where you're coming from. I remember watching it on my iPad. I think one of the things is, first of all, I want to thank everybody that night for sharing this discussion in a civilized and communicating manner. We do understand, and I will apologize, that I would believe if we want the council to have a strong and healthy dialogue, the conversation should be on the topic and discussion, and not talking about the potential consequence in a way that how we're going to impact individuals' life. I understand that was a very emotional day, and like I said, we don't have to agree with each other, but we will fight for your right to speak your voice. That is a right of British Columbia, that is right about democracy. So when we're talking about the importance of a council and a member to public to have good, healthy dialogues, obviously, as Lou mentioned earlier, we as a whole must be held at higher accountability. But we also want to welcome our delegates to come in and just for us to have a civilized and respectful conversation, focusing on problem solving and really try to take as much emotion off as possible so we can focus on how we can do things thoughtfully, trustworthy, and really togetherness. Thank you.
Thank you for your question, and thank you to the candidates for your responses. Do we have our next audience question?
I just had a quick one. First, I want to thank all the candidates here, their time, and their answers to questions posed. I just wanted to ask something that maybe is not is something you can do about, but I wanted to go on record on whether or not you support girls competing against boys in their sports days, elementary schools. Is that clear? Is that clear?
Could you please introduce yourself as well?
Yeah, sorry, I'm part of the working class here in Richmond, been in Richmond since 1986, and my name is Dale Bates.
Councillor Liu, you can begin.
Thanks for the question. I was very vocal about my opinion on this when it first happened. My son's here in the audience. If he stands up, you'll see how big he is. I don't think it's fair for the grade 7 girls to have to compete against him. I think if we're going to have a track meet, that you should have a girls event, you should have a boys event, you should celebrate success with ribbons and medals and results. Kids need to know how they're doing. They need that opportunity to stand on the start line, to be a little bit nervous, to overcome that nerves, and to, when they say, take your marks, set, go, that they perform on demand, they leap off the start line, and they know that they're in a fair competition against other girls or against other boys, depending on where you are. And that's fair. I don't know what the problem was that the school board decided it needed to change, but this is what our kids deserve. They deserve an opportunity to perform at their best, to measure themselves against themselves and against their peers, and to know how they're doing, and to be able to know if they're getting a personal best, and to see their own progress. And that's what's fair in Richmond, and that's what we need to fight for.
Mr. Starrett.
I'm kind of on the same page with Alexa on this one. Boys sports are for boys, girls sports are for girls. Well, this is not really a purview of City Council. I do believe that when City Council does liaise with the school board, we should be encouraging sports for boys in Richmond, sports for girls in Richmond. Richmond actually has a very successful tradition of high-level elite sports in the city, and I think many parents want to recognize that. They recognize that, and they want their kids to succeed, whether that is in Olympic-level sports, soccer, other programs. And so it's important to make sure that boys are competing against boys and girls against girls. It's common sense. And also, there does need to be winners and losers in sports. That's how you build character. That's how you develop sportsmanship. And so, when I played lacrosse and football years ago, always in a competition, someone would win, someone would lose. And you take your losses and you try to improve the next time. So, thank you.
Mr. Yap.
Thank you so much for the question. Intuitively, I would be agreeing with my two other candidates. However, I have to admit, it is not an area we have fully studied, and I would like to have to talk to our school council, school trustees to fully understand their perspective as well. I think it's important for us to understand that when we work together as a community, we cannot pretend we know what we're talking about. What's their anxiety, what is their concern, and what's the potential negative impact of a certain situation. I also know I have a daughter who's 5-year-old who loves to play and participate in a lot of activities at daycare. But I've also seen bullying between girls. I've seen big bullying between classmates. Simply talking about you cannot climb this, you're not doing this fast enough. And I've seen my daughter coming home crying. So I think when it comes to improve our elitists, that when they're competing in different sports because they have far better physical training, far better discipline, I think we should create an opportunity for them to be measured and be able to evaluate based on their performance. I also think when it comes to general sports in the schools, we should find a way to actually empower and get people excited and interested in the very sport itself, instead of turning and putting unnecessary pressure on our students. I think the one key I want to say, and this is one thing I will stand by at this stage, is I do want to build a Richmond where law-abiding citizens, no matter your gender, age, race, religion, we should always find a way to make you feel welcome and safe here. And if there's any issue that's complex, we should avoid making quick judgments and really ask ourselves how many stakeholders are out there and how do we ensure we have a collaboration and a togetherness to find a care to move forward. Thank you.
The question was for you.
Each audience question, each candidate in the interest of fairness, each question will be addressed by each candidate. And so now, Councillor Heed, your response.
Well, life is full of competition. From when you're in daycare, yes, they can work back together. They don't have a manual that says this is the way it is. When they start to move through life, we need to teach them about competition. We need to show that yes, biologically, girls are different than guys. Guys excel in certain things. Girls excel in certain things. The issue that came up that was discussed in the media here in Richmond and elsewhere was around competitiveness. Where you recall they took away first, second, and third ribbons and just gave everyone a ribbon because they competed. That has to change. We need to get back to competitions. We need to get back to standings. We need to teach our kids in a respectful way to be competitive in everything and anything they do in life.
Thank you for your question, and thank you to the candidates for your responses. I see that another audience member has a microphone. If you could please introduce yourself and ask your question.
My name is Sophie Yan. I'm an immigration consultant. My question is for Honorable Mr. Kash. Richmond is currently facing significant public safety concerns. If you were elected mayor, would you consider replacing the RCMP with the municipal police department for Richmond?
No. Full stop.
Would any other candidates, though this question was directed directly to Councillor Heed, in the interest of equal time, I would also allow any other candidates to respond. Councillor Wood.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. We did look at this a number of years ago at the City of Richmond. I go to a lot of conferences with the City of Richmond and talk to people from other communities. I went to Winnipeg and I asked them, do you have private policing or do you have RCMP? They said, little girl, we switched from RCMP to private policing some years ago. They have 4 times our population and 7 times our police budget. They said, you stay with the RCMP as long as you can. Further to that, the City of Richmond had a very comprehensive study done. It said policing in Canada is generally excellent. So we get excellent policing in Canada. The key is we have a bunch of silos in the Lower Mainland. So what we need to work towards is a regional police force where we all work together. So creating an additional silo in the interim, which will trigger a minimum of $35 million in just changing the sign and saying Richmond City Municipal Police. and not necessarily change how the boots on the ground hit the ground, that's not a good use of your tax dollars, and it's not really looking to the future of how we create a regional police force.
Thank you.
Mr. Starrett.
The police budget in Richmond accounts for, is one of the single largest chunks of the Richmond city budget. And we have all seen what's been going on with Surrey, with the skyrocketing policing costs there. I think the Richmond RCMP does bring us better value for the money that we are spending. We don't necessarily need to hire more police officers right off the bat. One of the policies that I wanted to introduce to address your concerns about public safety is to have community safety officers out on the street who can actually detain people who are doing all the drug use, committing crimes, work with loss prevention officers in retail, work with the police, so that the police may have more free time to pursue other investigations, other work that they're doing. And we need to get our MLAs and MPs to do their jobs and try to get convictions for the repeat criminal offenders that keep reoffending in our communities. So I do not agree that we need to switch from the RCMP.
Mr. Yap.
Yeah, my apologies. I do agree with all the candidates over here. The reality we are seeing is that municipal police does cost more. Even the transition will put a huge budget strain to all of us. And the reality we want to really pay attention is the number of officers that truly defines the effectiveness of how they serve the community. When I was at ML for 4 years, I had the privilege to work with our local RCMP, and they are great. They respond to a lot of concerns, a lot of questions, and we also understand a lot of community members, they sort of lose faith in RCMP and they will fail to engage. And RCMP has made a promise to us that they will try their best to engage as many neighborhoods as possible to ensure that we actually bring out our strategy. I agree with Sheldon. I think there should be multiple alternative strategy to ensure that we find a way to improve our security system. If everything's open to the table, I think most important thing is small business, young families, all deserve to live here peacefully and thrive properly. And I'm at home, I got broken into twice, so I really would like to see ourselves improving our security system for our whole city as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Thank you for your responses. I see another audience member has a microphone. If you could please introduce yourself and ask your question.
Yes, my name is Linda. I come from Community Voice. My question first to the two city councillors. Can you review the biggest mistake you made during your term as a city councillor? If you say no, 100% correct, it's okay. But if you think you have made some mistake in the future, how do you fix it? And the other two candidates, do you think what's the problem for the city, Richmond City Hall made, and how do you handle or fix it in the future? Thank you.
Let me respond to that right now. Yes, I made a mistake. I admit to that mistake. It's when I was trying to look at saving people's lives and realizing the approach I took did not work. And I've said quite clearly, whether they want to listen to me or not, there's not going to be any drug consumption sites in Richmond. I'd like to know where these sites are right now. So I'm being right up front with you. That's the mistake I made, was the approach that I took, and that won't happen again.
Councilor Reed.
I realize I made a mistake when we voted on the racism piece in the newspaper. I think we should have taken more time. We should have called for a notice of motion and pushed it out later. But what I'm really sorry about is that as a city councillor, I gave you the impression that our job is to police social media. Our job is to police the community and keep everybody safe, and that's where we should be focusing our time, and that's where I will continue to spend my time, and I will not be policing social media.
Mr. Starrett.
been many problems that many citizens have raised over the past few years. The property tax increases year after year. City council saying it's another one-time tax increase. I'm not saying that there shouldn't be room for tax increases, but just over and over and over again, a lot of people are feeling the pinch. Some of them are seniors with pensions, and they don't know if they will be homeless come next year. So we need to look at the city spending. The gift card issue went on for years. We don't even know how far it goes back. So far it's blamed on a rogue employee. But look, I work in government. I work for the provincial government. And just to approve something low level, you need a manager and a director to sign off on that. So the fact that a low level employee at City Hall was taking these gift cards and there was no managerial or director oversight is a concern. We need a full audit of all the spending and all the city departments and to look at that. And if I'm elected, that's what I'll do. We'll bring in a chief savings officer to reduce savings and look for wasteful spending at City Hall.
Mr. Yap.
Thank you so much for the question. If I had to look back, I'm going back to Astor Place discussion again. Because if you've been listening to a city council conversation, the impression anybody's walking away with, it's almost like Astor Place was approved 3 years into it. No action, nothing's done. I know Sheldon mentioned he actually made a few reports and companies, so thank you for that. And then all of a sudden, with the election year, when it's time to renew the lease, it got brought up and everybody getting angry about the result at this point. I would like to believe that if I could get elected as a mayor, I will take a proactive approach to help us reduce the number of homelessness in Richmond, to come up with a strategy to ensure that we proactively engage our stakeholders, to ensure that with the council liaison sitting to assist Astor Place and TMH to define whether or not they are actually fulfilling the service and to ensure that they're being safe for the community. We also want to make sure if the community are coming out complaining about certain issues, that they have someone to report to right away. So we no longer take a passive approach until things become an issue. I would like to see we take a proactive approach and encourage all the mayoral candidates too, that next round, whoever sits in the mayoral seat, please take a proactive approach in helping us reduce homelessness in a dignified, caring, thoughtful, and effective manner. Thank you.
Thank you to our audience members for your questions, and thank you to all of the candidates for your responses. We have now reached the final section of today's debate, the closing statements. Each candidate will have up to 2 minutes. This is your final opportunity today to speak directly to Richmond voters. You may summarize your key priorities, your vision for Richmond, and why you believe voters should choose you to serve as the next mayor of Richmond. We will begin with Mr. Yap.
I feel like I'm being promised about regularly. First of all, I want to thank Cool News for hosting this. I want to thank everybody for sitting through a very hot afternoon. Thank you for being here, listening to us, and sharing our vision and our goal. I want to go back to my opening statement. Really, I hope, even it doesn't have to be me, I hope one of our colleagues, candidates here too, can embrace the vision of bringing Richmond back together. For the last few weeks, as we watch social media, it's causing divisions. We're using racism and anti-racism and using anti-racism to create further racial divides. We've seen people using hate, using divisiveness, targeting vulnerable population. We have seen people simply saying, we cannot solve a problem, we will do something and throw it at provincial government. I know Councillor Lu earlier mentioned that BC Housing can shift people around. I'm pretty sure she can explain to a 3 to 5 year wait list that BC Housing is still dealing with. But after all, in the end, I really hope that we have a mayoral candidate, or hopefully our future, his worship or her worship, is someone who can bring people together. Somebody with a vision that we can put in thoughtfulness, we can put togetherness, we can put trust back to City Council and building that bridge of dialogue. So we don't wait till something goes wrong before everything blows up on social media, blows up a council chamber meeting because nothing was done for 3 years. So that's my commitment to you, and I'm hoping everyone can make a similar commitment that we will avoid divisiveness, hate-driven politics, and excessive partisanship, and really ask about policies and how we can bring Richmond together as a community. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, and thank you to Cool News. I think you guys did an absolutely fantastic job here, and it's nice to be first out the gate to get these issues out there so we can have the dialogue with respect to them. And look, today we had an opportunity to get some factual information and some that was not quite as factual. And I guess my encouragement to you is to go look at the issues, look at each and every candidate, and actually make the decision based on what you believe is the right candidate to lead Richmond into the future. I can tell you from my point of view, I have hope, I have purpose, I'm qualified and ready to make Richmond a safe and thriving community for everyone, regardless of the divisiveness that's out there. And I want to thank you very much for listening to me today.
Thank you everyone for spending this hot afternoon together. Thank you to Cool News for the great job you've done today. And thank you to my team for being here and supporting me. I'm Alexa Liu. I'm a 12-year city councilor. I'm a two-time Olympian. I'm a chartered professional accountant. And my 4 pillars are cultural harmony, community safety, environment and infrastructure, and economy, the economy and efficiency at City Hall. Talk is cheap. I know how to actually get things done. I brought in the car 67. I fixed the intersection at 5 in Canby. I've done a number of things that actually make your life different. And this is what we need. People who understand, someone like me, who understands how to get things done, who has the relationships, the experience, and the qualification to do it. I'm Alexa Liu, and I ask for your vote on October 17th. Thank you.
Mr. Starrett.
Thank you to Cool News for organizing this debate. Well, it was in a very hot room, but so not so cool. This election is a change election in Richmond. And what we need to observe is the track records of those who are running for re-election. To go back and look at what they voted on before, what they said before, and what has changed between now and then, and to evaluate whether things have changed just because of an election. In the last election, I called out drug injection sites, and I was told it was fear-mongering and misinformation by Councillor Carol Day, who I should point out is in cahoots and working with Councillor Kash together to run for city council. So I do take homage to the fact that they were called out for their track records, and they have accused people of misinformation and fear-mongering when they're being called out for what their record is. It's about records, it's about accountability, it's about transparency, it's about demanding that your city council will listen to you and work for you and vote for things that will make our city better in the future. So my name is Sheldon Starrett. I'm running for mayor on October 17th, and I hope that I can earn your vote. Thank you.
Thank you to all 4 candidates. Ladies and gentlemen, this brings the formal debate portion of today's event to a close. I would like to thank all 4 candidates for participating and for sharing their views, priorities, and vision for the future of Richmond. A public debate is not intended to tell voters whom they should support. Its purpose is to give voters an opportunity to hear directly from the candidates, compare their ideas, and make their own informed decisions. Thank you to everyone in the audience for your attention and participation today. And thank you to Cool News for organizing this forum. It has been my pleasure to serve as your moderator. I will now turn the program back to CC and Martin. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the candidates, and they have a great job. And thank you very much for audience. And this is the end of the debate with the success. Thanks again. Let's looking forward to the good result and vote for the ideal qualified mayor of Richmond. Thank you again.